That's so easy. I have hypermobile hands, and that makes opening anything with a screw lid really hard sometimes because my grip strength just isn't there, and my personal jar opener, my husband, isn't always home to help me. So today I'm going to be doing a beginner's sewing project, and it's just a jar opener with scrap fabric, a piece of shelf liner, and parchment paper. So if you have those materials at home, come along to craft with me, and let's make a jar opener. First, I gave everything a quick press, and then I'm going to use 2 5.5-inch scrap pieces of fabric and 1 5.5-inch piece of shelf liner. I've just ripped the backing off of this so it's nice and see-through. You can kind of see that pattern. You're going to sandwich those together right sides facing with the shelf liner in between. And then once you have those all pinned, you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance and leave yourself an inch hole for you to turn the project right side out after. Now this is the hardest part for me, the actual sewing. You're going to backstitch at the beginning to make sure your stitch is secure and then go all the way around with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. I have a hard time with the corners getting them to actually turn without moving my presser foot, so give me some tips if you have some. Once that's done, give your corners a quick snip, and then you're going to be able to turn this inside out. I use a chopstick, it just made it easier to get all those corners nice and sharp. I gave everything a quick press at this point just to make sure that it was nice and flat. Be careful that you don't melt the shelf liner when you do this. Now we're going to cover this in parchment paper and we're going to sew around the entire thing. So the best way to get this through your machine without the presser foot getting stuck on that shelf lining is with that parchment paper on top. Your top stitch will close that hole, and then the diagonal stitch will hold everything in place when you're using it. Then all that's left is to pull your parchment paper off. Be careful to do this gently so you don't actually rip the stitches you just did out. And then you can snip any excess string hanging off, and your jar opener is ready to use. All right, so this is our finished product. For a beginner sewer, I didn't do too bad with actually lining all of this up. So let's give it a shot. Let's try honey. This is the hardest thing for me to open. I like that this actually wraps all the way around the lid. That was so easy. Okay, let's give something else a go. It's a little bit harder. Pickles. Then my husband closed, so I know these are gonna be hard. Oh, that's so easy. If you have arthritis or hypermobile hands, this will definitely help you out. So if you have a sewing machine, some scrap fabric, give it a go. Happy crafting.